Hey, this is Skip Schoolnik. I directed this episode.
And I'm Liz Kraft. I was an executive story editor of 4th and 5th seasons on Angel. This was our last episode.
I'm Sarah Fain. I am Angel. That's Angel on the screen. I'm Liz's writing partner, and we wrote this episode underneath.
I'm Adam Baldwin. I played Marcus Hamilton, the new liaison to the senior partners, and I don't know why they invited me onto this episode, but here I am. She's really cute.
Yes.
She is really cute. When we first got this script, when I first got it, I was a little concerned, which I shared with Liz and Sarah, that
That's right.
it was all talk and there wasn't any room and there wasn't enough action, yada, yada. And I was so wrong. This was really, I was just felt so privileged to get a script like this and be able to work it.
This definitely ended up being our favorite episode we did. It was the most sort of classic Angel episode, and then it was really dark and
Brooding.
epic. Yeah, always brooding. And Sarah wrote this whole teaser, didn't you?
I wrote the teaser, and it was very, it was controversial at the time because David Fury hated it. Hated it, absolutely. Like, we had 2-hour discussion about, I think, everything that was wrong with it, but then Joss liked it, so it was redeemed.
So we won.
Right.
And I'm very glad because I really like it. I think it's very
We
funny.
all won because this was so great. It was such a pleasure to do this and to let these guys just have this scene between them, and it's just so funny.
Oh, this was funny. The
beer
he already
thing.
popped the beer, and David kept laughing every time James popped that beer. And do you remember that?
I do. He must have popped 15 cans of beer in the course of trying to get the scene together.
Oh, it's funny.
You notice James's hair in this scene?
Yes.
He shaved it off like the day after they wrapped the last
Did
episode.
he really?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I
Really?
saw him the next day. It was just,
Well, he-
short buzz cut.
He did it for
Wow.
a benefit or something, I think.
Right. Oh, did he have
read.
did he have a bet?
I don't know if he had a bet or if he did it. There was money raised by when he did it.
Oh, per lock.
Yeah, I think he always was very
What am I bidding for
bummed
this
that he ended
lock-
up with that
lock from the
peroxide of blonde
center
hair.
back of his head.
Well, I think it hurt after a while.
Yeah, I'm
having this-
sure.
oh, really bad.
But I guess it was all. I mean, he has a lot of hair. At least it didn't make it fall out.
Yeah. These guys, David and James, really played well off of each other, and I think they just raised the level of the show so much, especially when they were together,
Yeah.
because neither one could slack off.
Yeah, they brought out the best in each other for sure.
Yeah.
Well, David, just in this scene, he has so many turns. Like, there are really funny kind of beats, and then he gets into the Fred stuff, and it gets much darker. And I think he does an amazing job here.
Yeah, he really does. Now, Adam, I'm curious for you. Was the cast really welcoming? Like, were they? You'd never worked with any of them before, had you?
Oh, no, they were all great. I think David was, of course, a little intimidated by my size. You know, he's a big guy, but I'm a really big guy.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun to play off with, and he gave me a couple of shoves in one of the later fight scenes. So that was fun because I didn't move.
Right.
I think we had like one of the tallest casts on television.
Yeah, that's great. Whenever I walk onto a set and I'm taller than the other people, they're like, crap, he's taller than me. God
Yeah.
damn it.
Well, the first scene, which we'll see later on, when Adam comes in and talks to him, and David, I think, was a little intimidated, but he played it so well. Mm-hmm. He just didn't give an inch, and he wasn't supposed to.
Right.
It was very nice.
No, he's a force. I like that. He's very confident, strong that way.
This was an interesting scene for me in that Sarah is not particularly aggressive in life, and for her to make the turn and to just say, I don't give a shit I don't care what you do, was hard for her, and we really had to work a lot.
Oh yeah, and I remember when we were actually writing the episode, that was something that we worked a lot on in the dialogue of having her, having gotten to that point where she was at the bottom and she just didn't care anymore.
Yeah.
And I actually, just a bit of gossip, I just moved in right below Sarah in an apartment building. I'm 601, she's 701.
Yeah,
she's a very nice neighbor.
That there was one of my better entrances, I must say. Look at the
There he
That's where the
is.
episode gets good.
Hey, I do what I can.
A very well-dressed villain.
Yes. Adam was always a well-dressed villain.
Yeah.
Just little aside, when we were talking about who this character was going to be, Liz and I were very pro. We were like, we want it to be like this really hot chick and like, you know, this really powerful, amazing woman. And then Joss came in and he was like, I was thinking Adam Baldwin. And it was just like, oh my
We were like,
God.
oh, great.
That's perfect. It was like, we were like, you know, what were we thinking? It was a revelation.
And that was when we were on the set, actually. Joss was directing episode 15, wasn't he? When, we broke a lot of this while Joss was directing episode 15, which was the episode when Fred died. So it was hard because it was the thing with Joss where you're like, he's like action and then cut, and you get to discuss the episode in between setups.
Where I want you to be, you're my lady.
She's gonna say no, isn't she? I should have gotten the bigger ring.
I love Andy.
Yeah.
Andy was the nicest guy to me, and I'm glad they put my name over his chest.
I think the bartender's a friend of Jeff Bell's.
He
That's
is.
right.
Is that right?
He had worked with Jeff briefly on the X-Files.
Okay.
No good here.
Now, this was a scene that we added because our episode came in short, isn't that right? Am I
Yes.
remembering that correctly?
Yes,
I think
that
you're
is
right.
right.
And I actually ended up really liking this scene because it set up Lorne for the rest of the episode and sort of the rest of the season, actually.
This episode definitely set up the final, I guess, 5-episode
Right, the arc.
I want to ask something. Lorne, his name is Lorne, and he is green. Now, is that a veiled reference to Lorne Green from Bonanza?
No.
Not that we know.
Oh, yes. You know what? Actually, Sean Ryan, who's our current boss and was on Angel season 2, thought up Lorne's name. He actually mentioned this the other day and said that it was a reference to
Because-
something.
Oh.
What was that it?
I think so. I don't remember.
But that
I know
just
that he
came
named
up.
him, yeah.
You know,
Or does Lorne mean green and something?
Lorne Green, the guy.
Lorne Green
That's
from
what it was.
Bonanza.
Right. That is what it was.
I never knew that.
It's all
Nice.
coming back to me now.
I've been around a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The OGB.
And that was one of my all-time favorite Lorne shirts.
Do you want to tell them what OGB stands for?
OGB.
Oh, you didn't know about that reference? They had it on the clipboard, the sign-out sheet for the ADs when they would sign us out. There was this
No.
OGB, old green bitch.
Oh my God, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Never knew that.
Anything gets past security, kill it.
Skip-
I just want to point out that was a beautiful Skip Schoolnik shot
Oh,
right
was.
there coming out of the elevator.
you.
How much do we miss that
was the winner.
stage? How much do we miss that
Oh.
stage, that light and airy stage?
It was such a pleasure compared to the other two stages, the other two sets we had prior.
Was it? Because
Oh,
there's
well, the first one, the first two seasons? The first season was very small, and it was very hard to work in. The hotel was much better, and this was so much better. Joss had talked to Stuart about it, and he said, I want a light and open set where I can walk in and out and, do a lot of Steadicam and keep the action moving. And I think Stuart Blatt, our production designer, did an incredible job.
great job.
He, along with Leonard, what's Leonard's last name? The art director.
Yeah, give a lot of psychic space to everybody there. You don't feel like cramped.
And I love that we had the second story too.
Right.
That was very cool.
Yeah, I think that was sort of his homage on that show we did, Firefly, of Joss's, with the cargo bay, with the different levels and
Yeah.
the light, open, airy thing.
Yeah. That was an amazing set,
The,
too.
the stage on this show lasted longer.
Yeah. Well, the Firefly set should have lasted longer, but it lives on
I'm not bitter.
in a great way.
Hey, it's living on to be in a bigger format, as it were. There were a lot of wonderful turns dramatically in this show. This scene where David kind of busts Jay on hanging back and low self-esteem.
Signed a piece of paper.
And, he does it in a kind of a warm and non-threatening way because he respects them and they're pals. And
Jay is so amazing too. Such a nice guy.
Let me ask you something from an actor's perspective. Thematically, what dramatic additions does it give you when you light someone? You got one guy dark on one half, light on the other. how do you see that as the writers and the creators and the director? Because there's a lot of it.
I think that would be a Skip question.
I know, like Mr. Schoolnik.
It's a choice. It's a choice. It's a choice you make, right?
Well, no, I don't make the choice. I mean, to light him dark on one side.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a tonal choice that you're making dramatically in the lighting and the directing. Why do you choose that?
Well, this is a dark show, and we light everything fairly dark. The characters were who they were. We're trying to get more out of each one dramatically. Angel is always pretty dark and in shadow. And in this case, Jay was in the shadow of his character. I mean, he just felt so badly about himself and what he had done and what he had created. If you notice his body language, too, his shoulders are down. And, he came from a very, I don't want to say humble, but sad place. I mean, he was so down on himself. And, that all contributes to how we set it up.
And Angel's got to be one of the most darkly lit shows, I would think, ever. I mean, I remember when we came on season 4 and we were, wanted to rewatch all the episodes, and I watched 66 episodes back to back on my TV, which at the time was not a good TV, and it was so dark. Half the time I couldn't see what was going on. And I would constantly be amazed when I saw the episodes again. Be like, oh, that's how that monster died. I had no idea. Now I have a much better TV, luckily.
Yeah.
So
Here's Illyria.
So it represents the characters being torn between the light and shade.
The light and darkness within
Right.
each of us.
We could go to all those places, but the reality is we have to get it lit. We have a time frame.
It just makes it look cool.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, it does.
Just trying to fill some time.
One of the
Well done.
How about Amy Acker?
Wow.
We say more? She's a doll, and she's terrific.
Joss was mad when I flung her and hurt her.
You hurt her?
Briefly.
One of the interesting
How could you?
She fell on her face.
Oh my God.
One of the interesting things that happened in this script was we did have long dialogue scenes, and because it was so well written, we were able to let them play, and it's not normally what happens on Angel. The scenes go pretty quickly, and we kind of shoot through them. And in this case, there were scenes that they wouldn't have worked if we quick cut it, and we let it play, and it really works. I mean, if you're paying attention, it's really I think it's really captivating.
I have to point out that Joss wrote all of the Wes Illyria scenes, so we can't take any credit for those.
And
I think your shooting of those was great. I loved it.
We
And I
shot
think-
them all in a day.
The reason I think
I remember
that
that
they
very
work-
clearly.
The reason that they work so well, though, is that there was such a rich emotional life established in the previous episodes that led up to them, especially in the Wesley Illyria scenes.
And also Alexis and Amy just, had such
Rock.
great chemistry together.
They really nailed it.
And I remember when we were rehearsing this scene, it was tough getting the choreography of this. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Well, we were talking about the sets earlier, and one of the things about this set is it's such a big room and there's so much space to fill. So moving around it, there are just so many options.
Well, and we want to, for me as a director and as a viewer, I want to see the space. I want to be able to utilize it. Very hard time of blocking this scene.
How do you go about planning the scene ahead of time for as far as blocking go? Do you just say, okay, actors, show me what you got?
No.
Here's your basic space?
No.
You have it all planned out in your mind?
I have it, and I have every move planned out before I go into it. I know exactly where I want everybody to be, and then we get onto the set and we rehearse, and it all changes, which is fine, because having done that, I know the shots I need to make the scenes work. And if it changes, like it changed drastically in this scene, it's usually for the better.
Right.
And Adam, how do you feel as an actor in terms of that? Of a director coming in and saying, walk here, walk there? Does that feel restrictive to you, or is it helpful?
No, I remember working with Skip. He said, this is basically the space you have to work in, and I need you to move over here and get it done over this way. And you're right. It seemed like you had You had it planned, but there was room to change a little bit here and there.
It's a collaborative medium.
Yes, it is.
But it is odd walking in as the guest on a show that's been on so long and established, and like, you have to kind of diplomatically step in to this, this ensemble cast, and yet you still have to be you and take your space.
It's funny because that's how it is for a writer too. Coming into, we came into Angel season 4, and it's hard when everybody's been there and knows each other and has their sort of rhythm down of how they work, and it takes time to get to know everyone and feel comfortable. Which I have to say, we ended up absolutely loving everyone we worked with, but it's intimidating.
I find that the best thing to do is just go overboard, be big, be broad, give too much, be obnoxious in a professional way.
Yeah.
And let the director and the other actors say, okay, bring it back, bring it back, bring it back, as opposed to coming in with low energy and just sort of being fearful. And then them going, well, no energy. Give more. Give more is harder than give less.
This was a really interesting day.
You have to tell us about this one.
We found this community that we loved, and we had it all planned, and I had plans for a 30-foot techno crane, and we got out there, and the winds were blowing about 50 miles an hour, and we couldn't use the crane. And it's all supposed to be peaceful and beautiful, based on Edward Scissorhands.
Right.
And everything changed when we were outside. And we came back, that was on a Tuesday, and when we came back in on Wednesday, it felt like Friday because everybody was so beat up.
Oh, yeah.
And we felt terrible because that was the one day we missed.
I remember that. I was working the next day, and everyone was coming in. We got so beat up in the wind.
People were talking about their coffee cups flying out of their hands when they came out of trailers and doors blowing
lights
open.
tipping over.
Oh, it sounded awful.
It was an experience.
And it was so funny on the dailies because the wreath kept blowing off the door.
Right.
And then this was on the stage.
Christian Kane, who came back in this episode, we tried to keep secret from all the fans for so long because we wanted it to be a surprise.
Yes, that was the talk on message boards for months in advance, is whether or not Lindsay would be back.
I just have to insert how much I love this kid. He's so, first of all, he's so cute, but he was really good. He's just such a talented little kid.
Skip, do you find that with kids the trick is to keep them still?
No.
I do.
No, I haven't. With
But
my
just
own
having-
kids, with my own
having
kids,
them.
yes.
No, on camera, because they tend to move around too much as opposed to just focus in on the eyes.
In this case,
Not this kid.
I
I'm saying
understand what
kids
you're
in
saying,
general.
but yeah, kids in general, you have to keep a tight rein because they'll go over and lose.
They'll act.
This little boy was very focused.
And very natural, too, which was so... And I remember that's what we loved when he auditioned,
Right.
was how much he really just seemed like a
We saw
cute little
so
boy.
many kids.
Yeah. And they're all so adorable. And they're all so professional.
I
so
love her
amazing.
sweater.
They seemed like actory. She was a doll.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember we really liked her in auditions, too.
There's something
She
scary
very-
in the basement.
What could it be? Dun, dun, dun,
Now,
dun, dun.
this was all... wasn't the whole basement thing Joss's idea with...
Yeah.
As always, Joss
Yeah.
was hugely instrumental in breaking this episode, and of course, without him, it wouldn't have existed. Oh, this is a oneer.
Yes.
Explain how fun oneers can be.
Wonders. It's a long shot where we move the camera, the actors move around. You can do all kinds of different things. The difficulty with it is that everybody has to be right to make it work.
And you have to keep the energy up because you're not getting anything from cutting.
Right, and the camera has to move the right way. It's a lot more difficult than it looks. But when they work well, it's the best.
Yeah.
And that collection of cars that's been there forever is...
we bring them in.
Yeah, I walked in there and wait a minute. What's with the parking garage and all these cool cars?
Yeah, there was a lot of
Wasn't that
drooling
great?
over the cars that day.
That's Angel's personal collection.
Nice.
That's his motor pool.
Or the Wolfman Hart motor pool.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like half of Jay Leno's collection.
Yeah.
An eighth, maybe.
Yeah.
You know,
And we
one
didn't
of,
have all the motorcycles, being a vampire, of course.
one of the great things about Angel is the humor and how it comes and goes very quickly. And if you don't pay attention, it goes by. But if you do, there's some really funny stuff.
Yeah. And I think that was one of the hardest things about writing it, is keeping the tone, for me anyway, keeping the tone, having it be funny, but not making it unrealistic, like keeping it very grounded in the way people talk while getting jokes in there.
Yeah.
You know, unlike a sitcom where it's just set up, joke. That's not what Angel was.
Angel was a very smartly written show, which is part of its wide appeal.
And one thing I liked about it was that as much as I love Buffy, Angel wasn't just a Buffy copy. You know, it was its own entity. It had its own tone, and a lot of its own fans.
It was a more adult show
Yeah.
than Buffy, and it was designed to appeal initially to a 20-something audience as opposed to a teen audience.
You're making me so sad.
I don't know, I miss it.
Well, I had that experience when I was trying to figure out what I was going to do and what kind of show or what show was on the air or about to be on the air that would do all the things that we did. And frankly, there isn't anything.
No, it's
There's
tough.
nothing like this.
It's tough to leave a show like Angel because you really don't know if you're going to end up on a show that's as good, on a show with people who are as wonderful, with actors who are as talented.
Yeah,
That was scary.
it was scary.
Brown noser.
Joss, I love you.
What's also scary is
Constant worshiping of Joss.
how Amy made the transition to Illyria. I mean, she totally changed her voice, and she changed her posture.
Oh, that was insane.
It was just wonderful to watch, and it was wonderful to work with.
She's so great. Here's the wind again.
Right.
But you know what? I think it ended up working because it just made it so surreal. It's like you couldn't have planned that.
Right. And Christian was so good in this episode.
He was amazing.
Where is that on, like Simi or somewhere? And
It's the first exit into Simi off of one of those freeways out there. I can't
right.
remember the numbers of them.
And
And let's not forget to talk about a little bit about the music and about Rob Kroll, our composer,
yeah,
who was just amazing and made transitions like the one we just passed so effective.
and those guys were really funny doing that.
Yeah.
Those were some of my favorite dailies of that
Yeah,
scene because
me
they just
too.
did it over and over and it was funnier every time.
Well, you know, I thought that was going to be too big when we were...
What, the 20K?
No. But it was really funny.
This was,
This was the same day.
yeah.
The wind died down.
Can I help you?
Oh, my God.
She's not
Yes.
ugly.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not ugly at all.
That's this. That's a neat trick.
It was so weird just not knowing as much about production as you, the whole like shooting the door, you know, the outside inside transition, because
Yeah.
this was on stage. This was not, it looks,
Right.
it really
Seamless.
looks seamless, yeah.
Not ugly, but evil.
Yes, she's
Love that.
evil. Lindsay's necklace was a little big for my taste. That's just me.
Aren't you wearing the necklace that was supposed to be modeled after?
Oh yeah, that's right. It's a lot smaller, but that's okay. It works. And this was tough, remember, Skip, because Christian had a very tight schedule.
Yeah.
He had to get on a plane
Yeah. He did.
and go to China, was it?
Hong Kong. Right?
Hong Kong.
It was tough. David got the giggles when we shot this.
Right.
And he couldn't keep from laughing, and then Jay caught them. And even James got a little bit of it. It took us a long time to get this right and to get it blocked right. It was very hard to block it for the camera, the earlier part.
It's tough.
Yeah, this actually, over a series of many days, there were discussions about how to block this scene and the following scenes with the fighting and the shooting and where the furniture would go and where each person should, duck and cover and under what piece of furniture or behind. It was
Yeah, this was a particular.
complicated.
Yeah, it
Seemed
was
like a
complicated.
nightmare for you, Skip.
It wasn't a nightmare. It was just difficult.
Now, Adam, how do you get the giggles very often when you're?
I hate it when other actors get the giggles.
Does it set you off?
Really makes me angry because
Yeah, me too.
it's unprofessional, and it steals time from what you're doing.
So
I
that
mean, once or twice is cool,
How do
but
you keep
if
from getting the giggles, though?
yeah, what do you do?
you
if
take
feel
your
it?
job seriously.
But we're just like,
You know, he's only saying it because it's true.
I know. I'm an old hat, you know. When I was younger and less experienced, sure. But some people are truly funny. There's some people on shows that are just profoundly hysterical, like Nathan Fillion, for instance. And it's hard. It's really hard not to laugh at what he's doing. But then you look at the schedule and you're going, man, I want this close-up of mine.
so
I want this in the
What's
show.
important?
So, shut up over there with the giggles.
So do you? I mean, if you feel something, like you're gonna go, oh, there he is.
And here he is, and you get a little insight into his character.
Yeah.
I love this. He's just a suit.
Now, Joss told me to be the anti-Jane. So I tried to be as elegant as possible, and they gave me a really nice suit.
You were extremely elegant.
And not just a suit.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was very excited when I heard Adam was going to do it because there was a while there when they didn't seal the deal, and maybe he was going to do it, maybe he wasn't.
Yeah. That. Well.
No, that really was the thing, I think, that made everything kind of fall together. Once
For
it was
the
like,
end of the
oh, it's
season.
Adam Baldwin, it was
The
like,
end of the series.
gotcha.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because we needed a bad guy who had, enough weight that people would really take it seriously.
Bad guy. Adam Baldwin.
He was a good bad guy.
Now, how did you do that? How'd you do that gag?
Slow motion.
No, I know, but that's just
You
special
mean-
effects squibs and.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
And now you got.
And we also dropped feathers.
PAs throwing
Yeah.
feathers
I know,
at
it
it.
looks
Yeah.
a little like people just throwing feathers.
And it
Which is
looks
so
a little
funny.
bit like a sorority pillow fight, with all those feathers.
It was very difficult.
Yeah, it was
Again, we had to do it a couple of times. It was very time consuming.
Love this.
Yes, this was great.
What do you do with the camera when it ratchets that little herky jerky thing? Do you change the speed of the, or is that an editing thing you do later?
No, there wasn't editing. It was the
Wow.
Like that little jump cut thing.
that's a cut. And a lot of this was when we get back here. This was all handheld.
That's right.
Remember how long it took us to settle on the Wrath, as what we were calling the
Oh, yes.
the door of fire?
Yes.
Yeah.
The horror.
Sarah and I had a
The
dictionary, and we just kept looking up words that basically meant the horror. And there he is again.
I remember Skip said, "Now you fling her off like she's a feather."
Yeah. And he did.
Hey. And her shoe, that wasn't planned, her shoe's coming out.
Right.
But
Loved
it was
that.
great.
Now I hurt her when I flung her on that one. Yeah.
We had
Mercedes
some
was her?
really awesome stunt women, though.
Yeah.
They were hardcore.
They really were. And here's the dungeon.
You always feel bad because you're the big guy and you're throwing little girls around. It's like it's your fault.
Yeah,
I'm just doing what I'm paid to
Exactly.
do. Come on. Ew.
that was gross.
I wanted the hearts to be gooier.
They were pretty gooey.
They were pretty gooey, but you can't have enough goo.
Lonely Hearts Club.
That was a Joss beat, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
As so many beats are. Now this is the scene
Yeah.
where we
Yep. We found out.
Found out. Do you want to talk about
At
that?
what point in the scene?
Well, we didn't shoot it
It was
in
during
order.
the fighting.
It was during the fighting, and Joss came right after was it right after lunch, or right
I think it
before
was
lunch.
right
So let's
after.
see
It was
if
right
we-
after lunch, and he said,
He gathered everyone on
gathered
the set.
everyone on the set,
Uh-huh.
told us we were canceled.
Let's see if the energy changes from people after.
You know what? The energy that changed was more a crew thing. We had been flying through this, and after this day, when Joss made the announcement, things kind of slowed down a little bit. And there was really some profound sadness.
And it was everyone was immediately just also trying to get their resume together and apply for jobs.
Yeah, they were literally like the rest of the afternoon. People were on their cell phones.
Yeah.
calling people, and
Oh, I love this demon.
great demon.
Yeah.
Well, we should also talk about Rob Hall.
Yeah.
He is amazing.
Right
And
here,
everyone.
this demon, one of his best, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we also had his name is the stuntman who played him. His name is Marcus. I can't remember who I'd worked with before. Who is just wonderful. He's just all our stunt guys were a pleasure.
Yeah.
Plus, he had to sit in that latex
Oh,
outfit
misery.
for all day.
Oh my God.
Never a complaint.
Never complained.
Nothing was as bad as the werewolf, though. Sarah and I wrote the werewolf episode, and our Steve, I think was the name of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
werewolf, and he was he really that was a tough time in that werewolf suit.
Perfect example why, as an actor, you don't want to start getting the giggles when there's a
Yeah.
guy in a suit that's sweating like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's working hard.
You're wasting his time.
Yeah,
When they were shooting this, that was shot right after we got
that's
canceled.
right.
Because we went to have a drink with Joss, and we missed this footage, so I know that that's when we were gone.
What did you drink?
Beer or
margarita.
margaritas. Went across the street to Lucielle Adobe and had margaritas and
Cried a little.
reminisced.
A famous LA watering hole.
Right across the street from Paramount.
Yeah.
So yeah, this would have been shot after the news, right?
Yes, it
So-
was. We were
and-
very rushed for time.
Yes.
Kelly was, well, he wasn't beside himself, but he wasn't happy.
One thing from
Well,
an actor's perspective,
he's
once
not
a
shy
show,
about that.
yeah, once a show is canceled, is that the craft service food gets really cheap
Is that
for the
right?
rest of the run. Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, the gum is like all generic brand gum, and the donuts are
Craft service food is very important.
It's very important.
Yes, it
for,
is.
for
Can't
morale.
be overstated how
It's
important
for
it is.
morale,
That's
yeah.
right.
And we had a great craft services on Angel. I'd like to say.
You know, I also have to say how impressed I am every show that I watch with how good a sound job these shows have. We had a fantastic sound supervisor, and we spent a
Yes.
lot of time making the sound right.
And as a writer, that was it was such an education sitting in the mixes and learning about all of that, hearing your notes and how you tweak things to make it all work.
Yeah, it was.
I love Spike there.
He's so great. He's just always great.
We're just doing a little love fest.
I know.
Everything we love, we're just pointing it
It's
out.
been a while. Any bad memories have drifted away, and we just remember everything good.
This. I can't speak for all the episodes, but this one was really good. And it
How
was
many
a pleasure
episodes
to make.
did you direct, Skip?
Altogether, I think I did 5 episodes, and after in the middle of the first season, I started doing all the second unit.
Right. You did a ton of second
I did a ton of second unit, and the second unit sometimes would consist of just the fights, and sometimes it was just the inserts, and other times it was redoing scenes. And here he is now,
And that's a great entrance.
Yeah.
Damn.
Hello.
and I wanted them to be big.
Hello, I'm your friendly neighborhood killer.
In case.
He's so
There he
dapper.
is. He's very dapper.
So elegant.
I tried so
And then
hard.
this-
Tried so hard to get the studio to let me buy that suit. Nope.
Really?
Goes on the rack. Sorry.
You're kidding.
Everything, because you know what they do with them? They sell them on eBay.
So that they get. Now, is this where we get to see you and David right up against each other?
Yeah, the other advantage is I'm on an incline, so I'm that much higher.
Oh, right.
I loved what Adam did here. I mean, all the stuff, you don't see everything that he did, but with the insert of the paper and the pen coming out, it was great.
And initial here.
Yeah. That's great. Very good.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Said you were gonna die.
Now one day I will.
That was your first day of shooting, too, Adam. I remember,
This
wasn't
was
it?
the first scene David did with Adam as well.
I fell in love.
Just tried to be friendly.
Yeah.
Matter
How
of fact.
happy you must have been to spend the whole day in a parking garage.
Yeah. Great way to start.
Yeah.
Escape, by the way. Very clever. We'll be in touch. I have some excellent ideas I can't wait to share. Absolutely.
Did-
That's the policy.
I'm just listening to
I
the
know, I
scene
can't
now.
just,
Sorry. I get caught up.
No, it was all about
Get caught up in the big monologue.
I mean, it's a simple act. It's just get him on your side. Get him
Yeah.
on your side. Be nice.
Right. We never had a villain like
Kill them later.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, how much preparation, like, for a role like this, when you're doing a guest, I don't know what it's called, recurring, I
Arc.
suppose. Arc,
4-episode
yes.
arc.
I mean, what do you do to prepare? What
Well, again,
acting is such a mystery to me.
I tried to keep in my, in my through line was what Joss said. He's the anti-Jane, and so tried to just keep him speaking positively and nice, and sort of put on a false front accent, blah blah blah.
And now,
Be friendly.
to really put you on the spot, had you seen? I mean, how much Angel, if any, had you seen?
Not much. My kids watched it a bit and tuned in here and there, but it is a difficult show to follow if you just jump in.
Very difficult. Yes.
really tough.
So,
Which was one of ongoing topic of conversation.
yeah. Well, I think that shows why cop shows are the formula cop shows are so easy to watch and become hits, because you can tune in to any episode and the crime is at a certain point. You can tune in at any point in the show and there you are, and you know where it goes from the rest of that.
Yes.
Whereas this show, if you didn't see the last 3 episodes, you don't know why her eyes are blue.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. Now that was the on stage. With
Oh,
the,
yeah. That was the last scene of the day when we did all their scenes. And it was a really long day, and I had a lot of problems because of the background and it not being big enough to accommodate all the angles, and the angles that Joss had asked me to shoot a reverse on them, which meant we had to turn them around. This was from a show. That last shot was from a show I had done, I think, the season before. It was just something I picked up shooting on the roof.
Just lucky you had that.
And in order to get their the reverse, when we go behind them, we're shooting at the same background.
Right.
And
I remember
it
that
was
now.
very difficult for everybody to get their bearings.
Yes.
It was
I
really
remember
hard.
that.
Thank God for Ross Berryman, our DP.
Oh my gosh. That is the truth. Adam, how does it look to you? Does it look real, like they're outside? It's hard. I'm so
Well,
we're so
I
close
was
to it.
standing next to the scrim, so.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It looks totally real. The only thing you don't see are like moving streetcars or whatnot. But
Right.
If you're looking at the background, Skip's not doing his job.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, that's very true. Or neither are we.
This was another scene that was difficult to block.
Yes.
But came out incredibly well, I think.
Yeah, I think it's because the performances are so good. They're
good.
so
Yes.
strong here.
And everybody, as I remember correctly, if I remember right, really like nailed their lines every single time on this. And it was a tough lot of dialogue, and everybody was really like on it that day.
Yep.
And that was,
Do you have anxiety about the actors coming in and not knowing their lines in the morning?
Yep.
oh,
In a word.
Yep.
Well, if everybody knows their lines, then we can get right down to the real work.
Yeah.
But if everybody's forgetting their lines, you end up invariably losing shots and dropping stuff, and everything just takes longer than it needs to.
So it's really a collection of, it's like 5 minutes lost here, 5 minutes lost there
Exactly.
over the course of a day.
Yep, and they add up.
And yeah.
and it's
So every morning you come in when there's a new guest actor, it's like, I better nail this dialogue.
Well, actually,
I feel,
I'm very positive about it. I
Good.
go in until somebody proves that they don't.
Yeah.
I don't worry about it.
Yeah.
yes. Well, what I fear is somebody coming in and saying, "Who wrote this crap?"
Exactly.
And then, and
Not that that's ever happened, of course.
never.
Well, not on this episode.
Well, I had the benefit of working for Joss before, so rhythmically I understood, not knowing the show as well as others probably would have, but I rhythmically understood the writing, so that I could kind of fall into that.
That is helpful because Joss does have just such a strong voice.
I did
matter
want
what.
I did want to play Hamilton a little more arch, but I was giving notes early, not so arch.
We're always trying to keep
I was given
everything
those
from
notes
being
too.
arch.
I like to be arch.
Yeah. You do it so well.
But
Arch is fun, but not.
if you do-
on
if you
Angel,
do-
we're always trying to get
But
people not to be arch.
Yeah, Skip and I had a conversation about if you're doing evil things, you don't need to play an evil guy.
Yeah.
Because, of course, you don't think you're evil.
Yeah, play it
You
nice.
think you're in the right.
Yeah, play it nice and punch the guy through the chest.
Exactly.
No, Adam and I both came from the same place on it, and I might have tended to go even a little more, but I was reined in by the powers that be, henceforth, reined Adam in.
Well, I know Sarah and I had received that note many times that we were supposed to keep reminding everybody that it shouldn't be Arch. Remember that, Sarah?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we might have been annoying on that.
There was
I know,
there
we
was
probably were.
there was
But I
anxiety
think it
that
came
day
out
that it wouldn't be
Beautifully.
what the powers that be wanted, that it would be too much.
Damn it, we hired Adam Baldwin
And
and he's
look-
playing it to Arch. Crap.
And
I thought he
that was
good.
not the reaction. Everyone was thrilled.
Yes,
I
they
can
were.
tell you when they
Yeah.
were seeing dailies of you, they were thrilled because it was such formidable.
This was cool because Jay watched Christian shoot this exact scene and then had to do the same scene.
We did it shot by shot.
Yeah. And I think they both felt a certain amount of anxiety because someone else was saying the same lines that they were going to say, and they didn't want to do it the same way, but they didn't want to do it worse. But they wanted to, it was a really interesting.
It was interesting. This sort of friendly competition
Yeah,
about
exactly.
about who
They're like, "Why'd you say
acts
it that
better in
way?"
the scene, and they both did a great job.
My
That's
hero.
it, Joss.
Joss Whedon.
Are we supposed
And our fabulous end credits that nobody ever gets to see because they put them up in a
I know.
corner.
Smushed they.
And if you try to see them, they still go by you.
I know. My mom kept saying, "You're not listed anywhere on this show." I'm like, "No, at the end, it's really tiny."
This is Skip Schoolnik, director, producer.
And this is Liz Kraft.
And
thank
Sarah
you
Fain.
and Sarah Fain. Thank you very much.
This is Adam Baldwin thanking you for watching Angel. Now that's Joss saying "Gur Arg," isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.